This changes everything we thought was about to happen for the remainder of the Boston Bruins offseason, as a brand new report has revealed some very interesting details on the lineup that they currently have. We're going to be breaking it down, going over what possibilities the Bruins now have, and going over why this is a very interesting thing that we're going to have to think about for the remainder of the offseason, as well as the Boston Bruins are really going to have to tackle and make a final decision. We're going to be breaking all of this down here in this video. Before we do jump into it, though, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we're on the road to 8K. We got a lot of road to go. We're still on the way there. Your guys' sport's been incredible as of late. We're just about a third of the way, so we're getting close, but we still got that distance. I know you guys can hit that sub button for all of your Bruins news. You're doing me a favor by doing this, and I'll do you a favor by bringing every bit of Bruins news that we do have. But we need to jump straight into this video. I want to first pull up what we have right here from the NHL Rumor Report, which really revealed a lot about what we thought the Bruins were going to be doing and kind of exposed all of this. Now, this comes from Frank Cervalli, who is no longer with Daily Faceoff, I don't believe, but still reporting all of the news, still in the market, still in the mix for top 6 forwards are these teams: the Red Wings, the Maple Leafs, the Flames, the Canucks, the Rangers, the Devils, the Capitals, the Blues, the Kraken, and the Kings. And this comes from Bleacher Report via Frank Cervalli. Now, looking at this is pretty much, about a third of the NHL. And a lot of people were thinking, oh, this is kind of a useless tweet, so you're basically saying everybody's still looking for a top 6 forward. But one team that's not there is obviously our Boston Bruins. We thought that this team was going to be looking for that second-line winger, and now it seems to be not the case unless they are doing it behind very closed doors. And we kind of expected some things to go around this, or something to happen at least in some sort of way, while we saw the remainder of these signings that the Bruins chose to go out here and do in this offseason. Of course, we got a lot of bottom 6 players. For those who can't remember, we got a lot of players that are going to be depth forwards, maybe not even crack the lineup, but we only got really one player that I trust day in and day out to be in this top 6, and that is Victor Arvidsson. And unless the Bruins are trusting him to fully go out here, complete his role as a top 6 forward, even though I think he definitely could do it, not the most ideal player there, I would say, it's a very interesting look at what the Bruins are planning on doing and whether or not they're going to be trying to bring up as much of this young talent that they have in a mix of all of these veteran forwards down here into the main roster. And we're expecting a lot of movement here throughout the beginning of the season. Of course, and we're going to go over our schedule here in a bit that got released today, so be sure to stick around for the end to figure out that. Kind of go over our big dates here. But this is a very important set of few days for this Boston Bruins team, as when we're coming into this, looking at now, while rest of the teams are looking for this top 6 forward, if the Bruins are still looking, and of course, from what Frank Cervalli said here, and I do want you guys to take it with a grain of salt because it is Bleacher Report, they're not always the best with the NHL reporting, but the fact that Frank Cervalli put it out, it's very interesting when it comes down to this. Now, there is one name in-house I think could be a very good option for this, and currently not on this lineup right here from Puckpedia, and that is Matej Blumel. I saw some people comment yesterday in yesterday's video that they wanted to see something about him, and just so happened to be the perfect timing. And coming into this, I think Matej Blumel, who is a signing from the Dallas Stars, Texas Stars in specific, and was one of the top scorers in the NHL, is going to be a big resolution because of the cap space the Bruins currently have. If they are actually going out and looking for a top 6 forward, they're going to have to make a move and get rid of someone who is holding quite a bit of cap. And at this very moment, there's not very many players the Bruins can actually afford to get rid of and, kind of garner a whole lot of cap space in that move, unless you go someone like Casey Mittelstadt or Pavel Zacha. Pavel Zacha, not too big of a fan of trading here, but Casey Mittelstadt is one that, even though I think he still has a lot of potential, could be a big option to trade. And I don't want to say will be, because we don't know if a trade's going to go down with Casey Mittelstadt, but he certainly seems like the one and the only player that could be traded for a decent amount of cap space for this Boston Bruins team. But Matej Blumel coming into this season is going to be a very interesting player due to what he did throughout his past few seasons with the Texas Stars. Didn't have much of an opportunity with Dallas, playing only 13 games, but coming into Texas, you see his stats last season, this most recent season, he's putting up some incredible point totals. And this year in specific, 67 games played, 72 points. This is one season that we're going to see a big jump from him coming in from this Texas Stars team to what will likely be and hopefully be the Boston Bruins. And as I mentioned, and kind of pull up the past few past few minutes here, he's not currently on the Puckpedia roster in the NHL. Currently in the AHL on this, and looking at it, it's going to be one where it may be a case of when he's up, he stays up, because he does have to clear waivers to go through. And that was the question that was raised, and Dominic Tiano answered this here. Going over, you came to the right place for this question. Based on his age 22, when he signed his ELC, he is waiver exempt for 3 years or 70 NHL games played. This is year 4, therefore he requires waivers immediately. And because he's 25 years of age, if he has not played 80 career games in the NHL by expiry, he will be a Group 6 UFA at the end of the season, and he needs 67 more games this season. So there is a chance that he does reach this. Of course, whatever happens with the Boston Bruins, we're still yet to figure out. They do need to figure out something, though, soon, because even though we're only halfway through the offseason or midway through the offseason they still need to figure things out if they want to be a competitive or even a little bit competitive in this season. And for what we've seen from Matej Blumel, going back to his stats here and looking at what he brings to the table, he's a goal scorer, and that is what the Bruins need. And comparing that now to where we currently stand on this roster, I am not opposed of trying him on the second line. Maybe not starting the season in there, but we saw last year, we tried a lot of young players everywhere, and we saw some things work. Little too late in that instance, but now, a fresh new season, we're going to see a guy like Matej Blumel who, if called up, they won't want to send down because he does have to go through waivers, but he could be a phenomenal option on this second line, especially being recruited by David Pastrnak, as both are Czech and both definitely have that kind of similar play style. Not, of course, not the skill of David Pastrnak, but you see that play style very similar between the two, and I think that's what a lot of Bruins fans should really be excited about. And I wanted to pull this up from Bruins Breakdown on X as well. Matej Blumel is the wild card of the Bruins free agent class, 25 years old, recruited by David Pastrnak, and of course, his point total in his games played, and also going to his postseason, which very reminiscent of his regular season, was not just a fluke and was not just against bad teams. There's a lot of competition on this roster, but Blumel's the kind of lottery ticket the Bruins need a gamble on, and this is one thing that we saw in this offseason. They're trying to look at a lot of players who may be gambles. Of course, we have that internal already with Fabian Lysell, and the rest of the crowd. I could go on and name the rest of the names that we've been talking about for 2 years' time, but decisions have to be made, and whether or not they trade one of these players or get someone out or bring someone in or whatever option Don Sweeney and this team has with Matej Blumel, with the rest of these younger players, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with this lineup. Now, when we do come into this, of course, this season is a very interesting one because the Bruins have not been very good over this past season. We know that. That's no surprise. I feel like I don't even really need to say it. But coming into this now with the new schedule released, we're going to get a very good idea and very early about where this team is going to go and what direction this team is heading at the beginning of the season. Now, I want to pull up the first few kind of months of the season here. I know it is very small. You guys can probably see it there, but take a pause, look at this, go through it if you would like. But for this first month of October, there are some games here that I really don't mind. There's a bit of a tough competition, of course. Teams like Vegas, teams like Tampa, teams like Florida, teams like Colorado. Those are going to be tough matchups, but there are some ones there, of course, with Chicago, going back down to the Mammoth. Of course, they're a bit of a better team. Buffalo. There are some games that we can really see this team see what they can do against some mid-tier teams, some top-tier teams, and I think that's where a lot of these younger players are going to come into effect. Of course, we're going to have some opinions on James Higgins, whether or not he's going to be in this lineup yet. Still yet to figure out, and I'll be keeping you up to date with all of that situation as it happens, but the way that this roster is structured right now, they can compete with these heavy teams if they have this veteran lineup. Some of these bad teams, you don't want to put Lysell in against some of these heavy-hitting teams unless he, gets a bit bigger, gains some weight, things like that. So they have a lot of decisions to make, and I don't think they're going to see that early on in this offseason. I think we may see that early in the season and go from there where they can move, what the record is like, and especially in this first month. Now, I do also want to pull up one more bit of the schedule, and the schedule is linked down below. Of course, it is on the Bruins Twitter as well, so if you want to go check that out there, be sure to do so now that we do know it. And of course, Bill Burr announcing it on X as well. Pretty funny. We're going into February 1st on the 2026. We do have our outdoor game against Tampa, the Stadium Series. It's going to be a very exciting one. That's just one I kind of highlight there as well. And of course, the remainder of February going to be off for the Olympics. So we do have a bit of an interesting set here on the season. Of course, a decent schedule. I really cannot complain because we know the Bruins right now, whether it's a hard schedule, whether it's an easy schedule, I don't think it's going to impact the Bruins too much. I think this is going to be a big learning year, but this team still is very capable of being a playoff team, and I will willing to stand by that and book it, because if I'm wrong, you guys can call me out here later on in this upcoming season. But that is all I have in this video. Let me know what you think about the lineup right now. Of course, Matej Blumel, I want to know what you guys think right now as well about him on this team. Not just him as well, but about the roster currently where we stand. Do you think he could be a sneaky option on the top 6? I really think he could, and I'm very excited to see how this lineup does play out. I see a lot of people not thinking it's going to be a great season, but you can book me on this. I think this team could be a very, very sneaky playoff team, especially with, even though we do have a lot of them, especially with how this bottom 6 can be structured in any which way. So be sure to, write it down, capture this, get a recording of it, and call me out later on in the season if I am wrong. But that is all I have in this video. Once again, let me know what you think about this kind of outlook on the offseason and the way that this forward group is going to be built here in this, and also the way that the Bruins are not going to be looking for a top 6. Let me know what you think about that as well. But like I said, that is all I have. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.